Moving to Twitter
Mhm.
and the Twitter files, I'll give you my. I have a couple of things to say. One
Sure.
is that I found it kind of. I wish I'd been able to write a piece of yours, read a piece of yours about it. Like you could write it, you're a writer, and it would have been great. And the tweet stuff was the endless tweet thread was a kind of difficult way to absorb it. Secondly, I think it's a good thing to do. I think you did the right thing. I didn't think it proved much more than that the whole thing is run by a same group of insular, same thinking people who instinctively took the attitudes of establishment liberals and attempted to protect them the way they protected Hillary in her campaign from, and it got into, they were rigging it. They were clearly rigging it. And I'm not that shocked by that. I assumed that was happening anyway. How would you respond to those points?
Well, obviously the condition, I agreed to two conditions on this. One was an attribution, which was just sources at Twitter. The other one was I had to write it on Twitter or had to break it on Twitter. So the threads are the medium. It's not natural for me, but in a way, yeah, it worked in a way. It's not ideal, but I think it did achieve kind of what it set out to do, maybe. As to the second point, I think the first thread that I did was a little disappointing because I didn't have a whole lot and I didn't have a lot of time. But after 2 or 3 weeks, we started to get into stuff that I think is more real. Like once we started to see that all of these companies were using Homeland Security and the FBI as a kind of conduit to receive moderation requests from all different branches of the government, from HHS to the Treasury to NSA to CIA, to all 50 states. That I think is a more significant story. And, we haven't finished fleshing it out. It's going to take a while to go through all this stuff, but I mean,
why wouldn't the government seek to influence Twitter? I mean, it seems to me that does not shock me. But is it the fact that it was such a comprehensive attempt, or that it was was it that Twitter was particularly welcoming this stuff as opposed to treating it with a certain amount of skepticism?
I think they tried initially to not do it, but the Senate basically held punitive legislation over their heads. The same thing happened in the EU after bombings in Brussels and Paris. The EU went to all these companies and basically said, look, we're either going to regulate you guys to death, or you're going to give us some, let us get our hands on the moderation process. And the companies that already given into that, they signed a deal in, I think it was the spring of 2016, that was kind of foreshadowing what happened in the United States. It was less formalized in the US, but I think it is shocking because, yes, you would expect the government to try to influence these companies, but they're doing it at a very, very micro level. Like they're sending tens of thousands of requests for accounts that don't have a whole lot of traffic. These are accounts with 5-10 followers. Some of them are in Africa, some of them are in Brazil. They're not providing evidence for why they think these accounts need to be actioned, and it's clearly not voluntary. A lot of people are hiding behind a fig leaf saying, well, they're not ordering them to do it. Well, we found that in internal guidance in one of the emails where Twitter says, outwardly, we will say that we will only remove content at our sole discretion, but our internal guidance is that any account that's identified by the U.S. intelligence community as a foreign threat actor committing cyber operations will be removed, right? So, that's them internally saying that we're giving the government power over the moderation process, which I think it's significant. I think it's a real story. Again, we have to flesh it out more. I mean, reporting is, you got to move things, forward a few feet at a time. It's like, but that's how it works.